Welcome to Fans of the Forge, where we are recapping Season 6, Episode 17, The Partizan.
The Partizan, okay.
All right. Our contestants this week, we have Philip Schrey, full-time Smith with 2 years of experience.
Who we just met at Blade Show, actually.
We just met this guy. Yeah.
Took a picture with us.
Still the same beard and everything.
Oh, yeah.
Then there's Matt Waters, full-time Smith with 8 years of experience. Ian Rutkowski, part-time Smith with 2.5 years of experience. And John Norwood, part-time Smith with 3 years of experience. So, round 1, they are given 5 inches of 1-inch round stock, 10 series steel.
Okay.
And are asked to make a signature blade between 8 and 10 inches in length with a recurve edge using sanmai, using steel from your forge.
Oh, interesting.
Yes, very interesting.
So they must have decided it's time to get some new forges.
Time to get some new forges in here.
So let's use these ones.
Cut them up.
Cut them up.
And sanmai literally means 3 layers.
Yeah, that was cool. A little tidbit I didn't know.
Yeah. You know, off topic. I was thinking when I say cut them up, there's that Mitch Hedberg skit where he's like, I bet the guy at Pringles, where they're supposed to make tennis balls, but then when the day the rubber is supposed to show up, they end up getting a bunch of potatoes. And he's like, fuck it, cut them up.
Oh, man. Mitch Hedberg was the best, man.
Oh, yeah.
Some good stuff.
So, Philip, he cuts off the 3 supports from the bottom of the forge and is concerned he doesn't have enough steel.
Yeah, he had grabbed only a little bit.
Yeah. It wasn't very wide. So, his steel starts to banana when he's using the press. Then he switches to the proper dies and straightens it out. Everything starts going well for him. He quenched with what looked like a very hot blade, and while he's holding it in the oil, he appears to feel some tings happening.
Oh yeah, he's shaking his head. He's like,
no, this isn't good. But doesn't see anything wrong when he takes it out of the oil. So, moving on to Matt, he takes the front of his forge and the lid to make his blade. Uses 2 pieces on each side. Uses the power hammer to forge the profile on the tip. Matt quenches with 1 hour left, and the blade warps. So he goes back in for a second quench.
Yep.
Then it goes back in for a third quench, and it's still warped, but not as much.
Yeah.
So I guess it did what he was hoping it would do.
It got to the point where he was comfortable that he could fix it.
Well, it showed it in a vise.
Yeah.
Later. I mean, whatever. So moving on to Ian, he cuts pieces from the side of his forge and makes long and skinny pieces for his sanmai. He sets the welds on the press. The judges are concerned by the long welds and the thin outer layers.
Yeah. Any long welds like that is like just that much more difficult to make sure it's all.
We've seen them where they just split apart like nothing, but he did his due diligence on those, and it's stuck together. He quenches with 35 minutes left, and it's straight, goes to the grinder, finds a seam or like a D-lam all the way down the spine.
Oh, yeah. That was bad news right there.
Otherwise, anything looked really good.
It was badass looking.
Yeah. Moving on to John, he immediately starts cutting the sides of his forge and smashes the steel with a hammer to get it out. This guy is a bail bondsman.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Bounty hunter type of dude. So, yeah, watch out. And he layers 3 pieces of steel on each side. John sets the forge welds by hand and then uses the press to draw out his billet, and then goes to the grinder. Goes after it with pure muscle to shape his blade, which is nice. I mean, he's on the anvil just shaping that thing. And then he quenches, gets a warp, and goes in for a second quench. And I just assume that whatever happens.
Right.
It's good. Moving on to judging. So, for Philip, Dave Baker likes his shape, but it does have a noticeable warp. There's also surface cracking, but it looks okay.
Whoa. Surface crazing.
Crazing?
That's what he said. Surface crazing.
Wow.
And I was like, is that a word? And then I looked at the captioning, and it was saying surface crazing.
Crazing.
Which it just it looked like cracking, but I don't know if there's another term for it. I guess I don't. Maybe it's a more specific term for what was happening
it's like
there.
Surface, like hairline.
Yeah, it looked like it based on what the picture showed. But
moving on to Matt, Dud likes the way it flows. It's curvaceous and sexy, but it has pronounced warp, so it's
it is what it is.
It's still sexy.
It's curved and sexy in one direction, and then completely warped.
Like scoliosis or something. It'd still be hot. So for John, Ben says he nailed it. Has a good weight. It's a beautiful weld and well done. For Ian, it's got a pretty profile, but the crack down the spine is no good.
Yeah, like Ben Abbott was able to get his fingernail.
Yeah,
and it was that Dave Baker looking at his. Maybe I don't remember who it was, but they're like, you can get your fingernail in here. Yeah, that's not good.
So Ian gets a boot because of the crack along the spine.
Yep. For round 2, they had to add screw-on pommels and handles, and again, 2 hours is your time limit. For Philip, he cut down his tang so that he could thread on the pommel, and he's never really done that method before, so he has some issue threading it, and the judges were looking at the thinness like, oh man, that's pretty thin for a threaded tang. He chose some Buckeye burl for his handle, and it snapped while he was drilling it, so that didn't work out. So he grabbed some G10 and started over, and then he had issues getting his tang into the handle hole, so he thins out the tang even more, and then glues and attaches a pommel. For Matt, he started by grinding the handle to even out the steel and relieve the warp that he had from this quenching. He does get it corrected, and then he chooses to go with a stacked micarta blade, handle, excuse me. And he dips all the micarta in epoxy, and he's just all over his
the time was like running out, and he's just like...
He's just covered in epoxy, and he's just shoving it on there. And... I don't remember who chose it first, but John also does a stacked micarta for his handle. And the judges were like, sometimes when you're under the stress of the competition, all common sense goes out the window, and you see, oh, that's what that guy's doing, that's what I should be doing. But a stacked micarta handle is not the way to go.
Handles.
I think John is who did it first, and then Matt was the one that did it second, and then he was the one, that had it all over his hands. So John does the stacked micarta, and he chose a block of brass that he forcefully threaded very, very muscled down into that hole. And
he was lucky it didn't snap.
I know. That's the worst. When you snap those things, man, when you're trying to do a thread. Bad news. Anyway.
But he made it.
And so we move on to testing. There was the fire brick bash, 10 strikes from Ben Abbott. Philip survived all 10 strikes. There were no rolls or chips, and his handle stayed tight. So for all the little things that, could have been concerning, it actually went pretty well.
Yep.
For Matt, his mild steel peeled away along the edge. It was pretty rough. It was a pretty big divot there. And then you could see the high carbon steel underneath that had cracked, and the blade had bent quite a bit. So he had a catastrophic failure. And so basically John had to get through the test and hold up a little bit better to be able to win. And he did. Yeah. So because of the catastrophic failure, Matt got the boot. Moved on to the final round.
The Partizan. So it was a late Renaissance era pole arm used in Europe until the 19th century. It was 6 feet long with a long blade and medial ridge, so it's good for slashing and thrusting. It has 2 upturned flanges that allowed for a user to parry and control the enemy's blades. Now used ceremonially, the weapons must have a medial ridge, 2 flanges, and given 4 days to complete.
Yep.
So, for Philip, day 1, plans to forge out the socket, grabs 1095 sheet steel for his blade. Day 2, works on the medial ridge, uses bar stock, and forge welds it to the blade. He treats and gets nice hard and straight blade.
So, before you go any further, we have another one of those cases where at least one person on the Facebook group said he didn't forge that blade because he cut it from sheet steel to shape it.
Okay.
And a few people agreed, but then one guy was like, well, he forge welded the medial ridge on and did everything you need to do for heat treating. Like, that's still forging, like, to put that medial ridge in there.
Did he forge weld it? Or did he weld it?
He had to still forge. You have to weld it to hold it there while you're forge welding it. So he welded it on, and then he stuck it into the forge, got it up to temperature, and forge welded all along the blade, because you have to hammer it in and get it to forge weld to the...
I thought he just welded it on there.
I'm pretty sure he forge welded.
I wasn't watching that carefully, but...
I wrote it down as he used bar stock and forge welded to the blade. So
I know that
he did the regular weld you would when you're trying to do any sort of forge
you're just tack welding it.
Yeah, and then he stuck it into the actual forge and then was hammering that part in.
All right,
he did. I
know during grinding is like, all right, I got to clean up these welds.
Yeah,
I don't know if you'd have to. I guess you can do that with forge welding. Blend it in there. All right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna say that didn't happen because I wasn't paying that much attention.
Either way.
Yeah. All right. Day 3, W.
Okay, so don't worry about that. If there's only a single letter, it means I didn't put anything.
On day 3, W. Ooh.
Just continue.
On day 3, nothing happened. They didn't show day 3. On day 4, it's cleaning up the surface grind and goes for assembly. And the fit up, the pole got stuck in the socket.
Yeah, the socket for his handle. And
he was just like, "Oh yeah, plunk," and then it was like it was in there like solid. And
he barely even put it. Like, it's not like he shoved it in there hard.
Not at all, and he still had work to do on it. He had to sharpen all the stuff on there and whatnot. So he's got it in the vise, he's yanking on it, and then he's like, "Oh yeah, just heat up the socket," and then it popped right out.
But that's still, that's means he fit it up. It
means it was really good fitment. So anyway, moving on to John. For day 1, he wants to get all the forging done on day 1. He uses a half-round swage block to start shaping the metal for the socket, and also employed a coal forge to do some of this work.
So it was all coal forge and all muscle power, man.
Well, I thought he had a propane. I thought he had a gas forge.
Did he use a gas forge too?
I think he had a gas forge for one part, and then he switched to coal.
Okay.
For another part.
Okay.
Yeah, they showed him because he's like, "Oh, it's cold and rainy," and they showed him firing up the gas forge.
That's right.
He used a coal forge, I think, just for maybe the socket or something like that.
Gotcha.
So where am I? Oh yeah. Did he start shaping the metal for a socket? Uses a coal forge. On day 2, works on grinding out the profile and uses clay on the handle to differential heat treat his components there.
Yep.
Comes out hard and straight, and then he quenches the flanges separately.
Mm-hmm.
On day 3, nothing shown. Day 4, refining his work, going for fit and finish. Forges a nail, isn't happy with it, and he's like, him and Arm back and forth, like, I don't know, should I make another nail? Should I not? No one will see it. It's not a big deal. Oh, well, yeah, but still, and have to like.
Well, he was using it to affix the socket to his handle, so it could be visible.
Yeah, in the end, he made another nail that had like a more central head on it, and used that to affix the pieces together. So for testing, kill test. Ballistics gel dummies. Philip, design is scary. The edges are sharp. A big chunk of the dummy falls off while Doug is talking.
One of the arms.
Yeah, it's funny. Doug is concerned about the weight, but it will kill. John, it's so brutal. It pushed out a rib, which is cool.
Yep.
It's lighter, well balanced, and it will kill. For the strength test, Dave Baker is going to do a pike push and armor stab. For Philip, it's a beast. The weight and shape are good for thrusting, but it's so heavy that it's hard to control.
Yeah.
For John, the weapon is light and well balanced, but the blade bent on the armor.
Yeah.
And it's no longer safe to test. So because of that, Philip won, and John's deformation was too much to continue further testing.
Yeah. So, wow. That was good. That
Yeah,
was an
and
interesting result to the test. And
I guess
see how the design
because
turned
that,
out.
and I think Dave said it because of the differential heat treat, that part where it bent, it was really thin. It was toward the base.
Yeah, it was towards the base and already really thin.
And it was soft, potentially soft because it was a differential heat treat. So it was clayed.
Right.
And it wasn't hard. So it was still kind of soft and it allowed it to flex and bend like that.
So congratulations to Philip.
Sick weapons, though.
Oh,
These
yeah.
are awesome.
It was really great. And just to watch how those tests work, like the way you shove those things in, those were going clear through to the back, man. Those were brutal.
Nice. Really nice.
Really nice. So, again, congratulations to Philip and good job to all the other Smiths on this episode. Thanks to everybody who met us at Blade Show and followed us after that. So all the new followers on Facebook and Instagram, we really appreciate it. And check out our YouTube page. Be sure to subscribe to that. And that's it for this week. Thanks for watching, and we'll catch you on the next wrap-up.
See you later.
Curved and sexy in one direction and then completely warped
Like
in the
scoliosis or something. It'd still be hot. For Ian, Ben says he nailed it. It has a good weight.